Lately I felt someone else in the house. Studying at night, I heard sounds behind the right wall again. I've lived in my boyfriend's villa for 2 months. I know it's late, there's no room to the right of the study. But is that really true? I glanced at the door. He shouldn't come in for now. I took out a textbook and found a draft paper tucked inside, with a simple sketch drawn on it. I measured the villa bit by bit and sketched a rough floor plan. This drawing told me about 20 square meters, with no visible entrance. Only then did I realize the villa hid a secret room. It was 11 p.m. Uneasy, I closed the textbook. Through the thick wall the sounds were faint. I pressed against the wall. I felt around with my hands, hoping to find a hidden door or mechanism, like in movies or novels. I'd nearly worn my fingerprints off the wall, but it was still smooth. I knocked gently. Is anyone there? My voice was too low to penetrate the wall. I kept knocking directly on the wall, but then Lin Wenju pushed the door open without warning. I reacted quickly. I couldn't leave the wall in time, so I stood there and greeted him first. Lin Wenju. He'd come in without knocking. Had he been listening at the door while I was at the wall? I froze in place. Why are you standing there? He asked, smiling warmly. I quickly composed myself. Teacher, I'm reciting my lines. I held up the Hamlet script. You know I pace when I memorize lines. He touched my hair. We're together, no, don't call me teacher. Lin Wenju looked at me deeply. He was over 40, with faint lines at the corners of his eyes. His academic brilliance gave this middle-aged man an air that made time treat him kindly. I'm used to it. Can't change it. He smiled and opened his arms to embrace me. Fine, keep calling me that. I leaned into his embrace, but my eyes drifted toward that wall. Before leaving the study, I couldn't help glancing back at the wall. I studied screenwriting. Life is sometimes like a screenplay. In Zhengyi, a junior at Wenyuan College, training to become a screenwriter, my teachers appreciated me and introduced me to the reclusive writer Lin Wenju. He was eccentric, a quirky genius writer who rarely left his home. He seldom socialized, but that didn't affect his reputation. I had some talent. I had willpower and perseverance, and I craved success. My unfortunate family made me independent early. I knew connections mattered in this industry. Climbing the ladder takes 3 to 5 years, or even longer. To get ahead, I printed out all of Lin Wenju's scripts and studied them thoroughly. I impressed him. In my sophomore year's second semester, he began giving me one-on-one screenwriting lessons, free of charge. I was young and pretty. After 3 months of lessons, I moved him on another level. From his study to his home. I was 23, Lin Wenju was 43. Old enough to be my father, but we became lovers. Now it's the second semester of my junior year. I live in this big villa. This year, due to the mask incident, school went online. Online classes and romance went hand in hand. Once, during an online class, the teacher who introduced me last year, I took his course this year. An awkward situation. He noticed my background had changed. Soon, news of me becoming Lin Wenju's girlfriend spread across campus. For Lin Wenju, it was just a minor affair, but my reputation at school was ruined. I pursue success, but I didn't sleep my way up. I genuinely admired my teacher. Because of love, I feared no criticism. I'd argue with those who mocked me, and my feelings for Lin Wenju grew deeper. The more external resistance, the more we loved each other. Hundreds of hate posts piled up, but Lin Wenju and I just changed scenes at home. Living a sweet life, under Lin Wenju's guidance. I'd actually completed a script. As a debut, it was quite impressive. I didn't dare slack off. Every day, besides school, I did writing training. I thought everything would go smoothly, without worrying about other things. But now I'd discovered Lin Wenju's secret. This was a villa district on the city's outskirts. The neighbors were all respectable. The villa had excellent lighting, spacious and bright. Living here lifted my spirits. I never associated it with horror plots, but such a beautiful house. After living here a while, I noticed faint sounds that never seemed to leave my ears. I don't believe in the supernatural. There must be another person in this house, but Lin Wenju always says I misheard. I thought of the legendary gaslight effect, and became more convinced that my feelings were not wrong. These days, while he was away, I measured the house and drew a simple sketch. After about 20 days, we planned to find a way to probe the secret room's entrance when he next went out. A positive case appeared in the neighborhood, and we were locked down, everyone confined at home. Under his watchful eye, I dared not act rashly, actually thinking back carefully. There were indeed many suspicious places. The secret room was right next to the study where I studied, and the other side was also a study. Lin Wenju didn't like eating at the dining table. He always brought food to the study and ate while working. He always took a lot of food in and finished it all, but I clearly remembered when I first met him. He once said that as he got older, he should eat less. I hadn't thought much of it before. I thought it was because he was happier after being with me, so his appetite improved. Soon after, I went to ask him a question, but didn't see any dinner tray on the desk, though it was always used. Surely he wouldn't put it all away, but I didn't pay attention then, thinking Lin Wenju was just a clean freak. So he put it away first and took it out when leaving the study. Now thinking about it, he actually took it into the secret room. The extra food was eaten by someone inside, so the entrance to the secret room. My study and the secret room were separated by just a wall, no matter how I knocked or felt around. Only by entering Lin Wenju's study could I uncover the secret. At that moment, I was in the kitchen. Glancing furtively at that study, I accidentally spilled soup when pouring it, splashing my hand. Hey, what are you thinking about? Lin Wenju came over from the side. He anxiously took my scalded hand and rinsed it under cold water. You even space out while cooking. He lowered his eyes. Lin Wenju had a faint birthmark in his left eye, making his eyes look deeper and gentler. I thought to myself, if not for this matter, how wonderful we could be. I truly loved him. He blew on it carefully, and seeing it was fine, said, "I'm heading back to my room first." With that, he took food for two and walked into the study. I watched the closed door, my emotions complicated. But since I already knew about the secret room, I couldn't pretend otherwise. Was he hiding something in there? He was always working inside, and when I went in to ask questions, it never lasted more than 2 minutes. He would naturally stand up, walk around the desk, and guide me out, until we both sat on the living room sofa. Thinking back, that was also suspicious. I had to find a time to enter his study alone, during the lockdown. Except for sleeping at night, he was always working in the study, step by step. That night, I was still reviewing my studies. Thinking of what was about to happen, I grew more restless. He patted my head, meaning, get some rest. Teacher, I suddenly have a lot of inspiration today. I want to stay up late and write more. I took his hand and shook it back and forth. Dear Lin Wenju, Lin Wenju. He couldn't resist my pestering and sighed, just like me when I was young. Not eating, not drinking, not sleeping. Fine, just this once. Lin Wenju left. But soon I grew even more nervous. Both studies were on the first floor. The bedroom was on the second. I only needed to wait about an hour until he fell asleep, then I could go to his study and investigate. I waited anxiously for sleep to come. At midnight, I slipped out of bed. Treading softly, I left my study and crept toward the other end. I arrived at Lin Wenju's study, took a deep breath, turned the doorknob, and went in. I had been here a few times before, but never with a purpose to investigate. The study was dimmer. I knew the layout here, so using the faint street light outside, I felt along the walls. It was too dark. I rubbed my eyes, took out my phone, and lit up the screen. I continued searching, carefully going over every inch. Usually, hidden mechanisms were behind paintings. Under the phone's light, I leaned in close, examining the edges of the frame. With one hand lifting the painting, I reached behind with the other. Behind it was just a smooth wall. I kept feeling around. My back ached, the phone shook. A woman appeared right before my eyes, staring at me intensely, her pitch-black pupils reflecting light. Her mouth opened. My phone dropped. I froze in shock. Luckily, the phone fell right between my feet. I clamped it with my slippers, making no sound. Not a deep technique. The woman in makeup wore a fine chrysanthemum costume, standing on the gathering stage. I had seen this painting before, but in such a pitch-black night, it became terrifying. Finally calmed down, the TV was installed in the center of the room, away from mechanisms or displays. Maybe things weren't as complicated as I thought, but my eyes fixed on another door in the study. This room could originally be used for streaming, with a bathroom. I had been in its study. The bathroom door was tightly shut. I turned the handle but couldn't open it, confirming my suspicion. I felt closer to the truth. I pressed my ear to the door and heard a faint sound. I whispered, but the sound seemed to vanish. I crouched down to inspect the keyhole. I quickly took a frame from my head, and Bai Zhicheng inserted a wire into the keyhole, back when reading scripts. I was curious and learned it, never thought it would come in handy. The lock opened. I steeled myself and opened the door nervously, but the expected scene wasn't there. The place was small and empty. Holding on to my last hope, I felt the bathroom walls and mirror again, but found no mechanism. As I pondered, the earlier noise suddenly shifted direction. I heard a sound. It was outside. Somyeon was coming down the stairs in the living room. At 1 a.m., Lin Wenju suddenly woke up. Was he coming for me again? Was he entering my study? I wished I could directly connect to the study, but his footsteps weren't fading, they were getting closer. I didn't know whether to be relieved or scared. Either direction he went, it was bad for me. I had no choice but to hide in the bathroom and close the door. Almost immediately, he pushed it open. I pressed my heaving chest against the door and listened. He seemed to have opened a drawer, then the sound of a box opening. He was taking medication, a sedative psychiatric drug, an artist like him. So he hadn't been asleep upstairs either. Did he hear me? My mind was in chaos. All right, he suddenly said, then chuckled softly. Then I realized he was talking to himself, but it seemed like he was talking to someone. The next second, footsteps approached. If only I could disappear on the spot. He was walking toward the bathroom. I stayed still. Fortunately, he stopped at the door, seemingly not planning to come in. He leaned against the door panel and said, "I'll send you off," like a demon's whisper, sending chills down my spine. Was that the script he was writing now? What did "send you off" mean? The hallway was pitch dark. I couldn't worry about that now. I could barely save myself. He continued muttering, with a hint of complaint. "This kid is still working hard." He was going to my study to find me. I was in despair. It was only a matter of time. This time I'd really be exposed. How would I explain not only entering his study? Had I stumbled upon a secret I shouldn't have? I was about to be caught before even uncovering the truth, because he'd just left. I quickly stepped forward, gently opened the study door, and saw the kitchen light on. He hadn't gone to my room yet. I hurried out of the study, crouched, and tiptoed to close the door. Light and steady, I crossed the living room. Finally, I stood before my study door and straightened up. Then I turned the doorknob, pretending I'd just come out. Lin Wenju poked his head out from the kitchen. I rubbed my eyes, yawned, and walked toward the kitchen. Almost done. "Teacher, why are you up? If you don't sleep, I can't sleep well either." He handed me a glass of warm milk. My hands were covered in cold sweat. I wiped them on my pants behind my back. "Why aren't you wearing shoes, kid?" Lin Wenju smiled kindly. I shuddered, my heart racing. I decided never to investigate the secret room again. I told the police everything, and they asked, "You heard him say, Xiaowen, the scene, I'll send you off. Do you know where he was referring to?" I replied, even though I'd lived with him for 2 months, he never told me what he was writing. Basically, Xiaowen wouldn't be mentioned. The police nodded, took notes, and asked again. "At that time in the bathroom, you acted like you saw nothing." The police pressed on. The police said bluntly, Lin Wenju's wife, the woman he mentioned. The woman he was talking Tafat was his ex-wife. I mentioned her again. That doesn't count. Besides, the book and Lin Wenju were legally married. They never divorced. The police looked at me with some suspicion. Impossible. She said she divorced. I couldn't believe my eyes. She lied to me. Let me ask you one more time. Should I pretend I saw nothing? I could barely hold back tears, but I saw it. You guessed right, I saw that sharp look, but I must tell you, I am innocent too. As a student, I first came to Lai Wenju's class to try it out. Was this place owned by anyone? Having no children made her look younger than her age, but her eyes had already betrayed her. She was a drama actress in her youth, first met Lai Wenju during a play, when her career was thriving. After falling in love with Lai Wenju, she gave her last performance. After marriage, she bid farewell to the stage forever. Years of married life with Wang Shiji in the past allowed her to cook a good meal with ease. But she was completely shaped by Lai Wenju's form, or rather, she had become a sentence. When Lai Wenju performed on stage, She knew exactly what tea to brew for her husband. She was perceptive. Quietly, I must say that as the hostess, she barely had any presence. No family, no friends, her whole life revolved around her husband. She only went out to shop. She'd return home immediately after buying daily necessities. I found it hard to understand how a woman could be so devoid of self. She answered timidly in a small voice, lacking the demeanor of an elder, yet she was young, pretty, and lively. It was merely superficial. Teacher Lyon was such a talented man. He shouldn't have been with such a mediocre woman. She was more like a maid. Over time, that was how I viewed the so-called hostess. Of course, as a woman, I sometimes sympathized with her. After class, I would go chat with her. I told her how wonderful the outside world was, how friends could vent. She just gave a dry smile. I also invited her to go shopping and dine out. She declined nervously a few times, but eventually went with me. Later I learned the reason. She couldn't bear children and felt guilty toward her husband. I tried to counsel her a few times, but I truly couldn't help much. She just stayed that way. I couldn't manage her too much. I cared more about myself. I shouldn't be such a despicable third party. So she let Uncle He leave, making me the hostess, while I harbored admiration and love for my teacher. The latter naturally outweighed the former. I told myself their marriage was already flawed. Teacher Lin would eventually tire of her. After Uncle He left, I settled in with a clear conscience. She truly left, until I walked into the bathroom of Lin Wenju's study, where a makeup mirror sat on the counter. I turned on the light, and through the glass, I directly saw that secret. She sat on the bed, her gaze directed toward me, but she couldn't see me. After observing for a long time, I wondered, was Lin Wenju keeping her because he had feelings for her? He had clearly grown tired of her long ago, yet he wouldn't let her go. I didn't want to dig deeper. I could continue living in this big house, together with Lin Wenju, so I pretended to see nothing. 3 months had passed. I resolved to stop thinking about these things and focus on having the baby. Whatever happened later, even if she came out, I still had the upper hand. I could still bear children, completely outshining her. I would marry Lin Wenju legitimately. But an accident struck. The night of the incident was an ordinary evening. He was napping on the sofa. I was watching TV nearby and also dozed off. Startled awake, I opened my eyes suddenly and saw Auntie with disheveled hair. I was nearly frightened into a faint. It was so sudden. I didn't know how she had escaped. Her eyes were filled with fierce hatred. She rushed toward me quickly. I screamed for Lin Wenju. I was pregnant, my emotions already unstable. She charged right up to me. I fainted from sheer fright. My last glimpse was of Lin Wenju, even when I woke up. He saved me. Later I was taken away by the fire alarm sirens. I hurried over to check and found the fire was right here, the secret room. His body was burned black, no longer moving, and he sat expressionless at the secret room's door. She seemed to have just come out. The secret room was well sealed, so the fire hadn't spread. Lin Wenju was dead. That's the whole story. I didn't set the fire. Teacher must have been pressing Auntie back into the secret room. She attacked him when he was off guard, then set a fire and escaped. She had been locked up until she had a mental breakdown, which drove her to such extremes. I was left with bitter suffering. They told me the questioning was over and I could rest in the lounge. I let out a long sigh of relief. Anyway, I was innocent. I walked out of the interrogation room calmly, knowing full well how sour the police officers' faces were behind me. I sat in the room for a long time. 2 female officers came in, and I happened to overhear their conversation. Uncle He and Shang Shang were hospitalized, critically injured. The policewoman said Uncle He mentioned the mistress. They don't look like rivals at all, more like a couple. The other one said she've understood. She was locked up by her husband for so long, kept in a secret room. How could she stay sane? By the way, what did Uncle He say? She insisted the fire started in the laundry room. The laundry worker saw her and pretended to faint. Lai Wenju was drunk. Furious, she escaped and hit her. They woke up from the smoke and found themselves trapped in the burning room. She was lucky to wake up. I waited a while, then left the restroom. A few days later, the case was solved. I grabbed the detective I knew and under questioning learned the truth. A month earlier. It was a short story by a Japanese author, Akutagawa Unisuke, called Hellscreen. It told of a painter with a morbid, obsessive pursuit of art, willing to go to hell for it. He sacrificed his own daughter, watching her burn to death in the flames. Finally completing a masterpiece, Hell Screen, after Lai Wenju started writing the script. She wanted to experience such a hellfire herself. Only then could she write the final act with tragic, extreme beauty. She was always eccentric and dark, having such wild, terrifying ideas. People were used to it. I left the police station that night. The case was closed. Years later, I settled in Spain. I became a somewhat famous playwright. My debut work premiered at the local Grand Theatre. I attended opening night. It was Professor Lu from the College of Liberal Arts. She helped me a lot in university, my first mentor on this path. I invited Professor Lu to my home. Over tea, she casually asked, "Where's your daughter? Is she Spanish?" I smiled and said, "You'll see in a moment." Professor Lu brought up the past. She said, "If I'd known you'd become Lai Wenju's mistress. I never believed you were the kind to stoop so low." I sighed and smiled. True, but love. I changed the subject. Why adapt Lion Xianbin? It depicts the bond between two women in ancient times. That I can answer. Ancient society was so feudal. How could men back then accept a bond between two women? Yet today, centuries later, some still can't tolerate it. Isn't that sad? Just then someone opened the door and came in, holding a 5-year-old girl. Professor Lu looked up, startled. He still had burn scars from years ago, but he smiled confidently and beautifully. He Shuyu laughed. "Didn't you recognize me?" Professor Lu looked at him, then at me. "What's going on here? It's complicated. Actually, the story up to now was mostly fabricated, a script written to deceive the police. So what's the truth? The key teacher wasn't He Shuyu, but Lai Wenju." I developed a deep interest in playwriting and sought Professor Lu's guidance. She'd introduced me to a famous playwright. I admired Lai Wenju, memorized all his scripts, but I never dared dream he'd teach me personally. He said I had talent and insisted on giving me playwriting lessons. I was overwhelmed with gratitude. Actually, that was a lie too. In the second semester of my sophomore year, he started teaching me. Then the pandemic hit. He didn't want to go out, so I went to his house for lessons. I shared all my creative ideas and asked many questions, but Lai Wenju's answers were unsatisfying. He didn't seem like the legendary genius playwright, more like an ordinary teacher, and at the end of each lesson, he'd ask me things like, "Your skin is so nice. What skincare do you use?" I thought Lai Wenju was holding back, wanting me to master the basics first before sharing his insights. After a few lessons, I told Lai Wenju I wanted to adapt Lion Xianbin and talked at length about the characters. I went on for a long time. Finally he turned and said, "Why write that?" He looked me up and down, then ended class early and went to his study. I was devastated. I couldn't help crying. After a while, someone came over and put a hand on my shoulder. It was the mistress and He Shuyu. He read my work carefully and gave valuable suggestions. I started talking with him and soon forgot my sorrow. After that, I'd go to chat with the mistress and him. Later I told the police I visited her out of sympathy. That wasn't true. She was the one teaching me all along. After many sessions, He Shuyu was more like the legendary genius. His eyes lit up when talking about drama, but whenever they did, he'd be asked to bring water or snacks in, and the light would fade. He'd go make tea. I felt sorry for my mentor's wife, so I often took her out shopping and dining to escape the dull life with my grandfather. But once outside, she grew restless and anxious to go home. It wasn't like this with He Shuyu before. She had many unique insights on drama, not a professional critic, but Lai Wenju was formally trained. After being with He Shuyu, he rose to prominence in the industry with his highly acclaimed works. Many stunning ideas that amazed audiences originally came from He Shuyu. Lai Wenju's achievements. He was once so brilliant. His only weakness was falling in love with Lai Wenju, who wanted to reap the benefits of his wife's contributions. Unable to surpass him creatively, he exploited He Shu's love and suppressed him relentlessly in their marriage. He'd say how wonderful wives were and how terrible He Shuyu was, chipping away at his confidence again and again. He specially built this secret room. At any disagreement, he'd lock He Shuyu inside, sometimes for long stretches. He only knew cooking and chores, no longer discussing drama. Lai Wenju also gained a reputation in the circle. He rested on laurels that weren't his. My playwriting class, he naturally treated with indifference. Until that day my debut work was completed. Lin Wenju suddenly became attentive, opening several bottles of wine to celebrate. But before a single scene was rehearsed, He Shuyu collapsed. Then I collapsed too. Before losing consciousness, I saw Lin Wenju approach. He smiled and said, I don't believe that after tonight, y'all still like women. He Shuyu and I were both limp as ragdolls, running fevers. He stayed by my side, taking care of me. He gave me fever-reducing medicine, and I drifted back to sleep. It was during the pandemic. Under Hishi's care, I slept confusedly for 3 days and nights, when I finally woke up fully. This wasn't his first time targeting a female apprentice. Previously he used money and resources, threats and bribes. But I didn't believe it. I was too furious. I had to call the police. He was going to lock me in that secret room, first training me like he trained my mentor's wife. He dragged me step by step inside. He Shuyu was kneading noodles in the kitchen. He watched from afar, his face expressionless. Shuyu, what are you spacing out for? Come help. He walked over in a daze. I looked up, glancing at him through blurry eyes. He took my hand. He turned toward his husband, Lai Wenju, who was shouting at the secret room door. I was filled with grief and rage. I grabbed a knife to stab him. He Shuyu stopped me, but I wouldn't give up. Don't help him anymore. Lai Wenju must die, I said to He Shuyu. I looked into his eyes and gradually calmed down. Together we dragged Lai Wenju into the secret room. He continued to perform. His acting skills were already in his blood. From then on, he played 2 roles. He further exacted revenge, exhausting himself into haggardness. The only thing left was the final act. To appear before the world again, he only went out wearing Lai Wenju's face. They had been married for years. He could mimic Lai Wenju's walk and simple mannerisms. Lai Wenju had a peculiar personality. He was 3 centimeters shorter than Lai Wenju, so his shoes needed slight lifts. He prepared muscle padding props. He cut his hair short and wore a hat. During the pandemic, masks were required, so his face was covered too. The neighbors didn't notice anything off. Lai Wenju rarely went out before, and now the pandemic kept everyone apart. As for me, I played the role of a student obsessed with being his lover, never returning to school. We created the illusion that Lai Wenju was having an affair with me, and spread that bad reputation widely. Additionally, I wrote a script about regional discrimination. Previously, I had all of Lai Wenju's scripts. I knew his writing style and tone, easily producing a historical piece. By the 2nd act, I stopped. I wrote a 2nd script that couldn't be performed, one for real-life enactment. We revised it many times. To make it more realistic, what we reported to the police was based on this play. He Shuyu, online as Lai Wenju, exchanged creative ideas with industry insiders, appropriately expressing grief over regional discrimination. In this way, we revealed Lai Wenju's motive for arson. He also used Lai Wenju's account to book a trip in advance. He Shuyu and I arranged everything. Lai Wenju had been locked in the secret room too long. We executed the final part of the plan, keeping Lai Wenju locked up, letting him die in the secret room's fire. It wasn't a heroic death to save anyone. He was already locked in there. The one meant to die was him. He Shuyu didn't hesitate to harm himself. I wanted to do the same, but He Shuyu strongly stopped me. That night He Shuyu and I stood side by side outside the window, watching through the one-way glass as the demon Lai Wenju burned. Mommy is really sorry you had to see such a horrible scene. Mommy just wants to tell you. But you must never become a demon like her. That's not human behavior. She turned to ashes in the fire. Did she get taken down? I asked. Yes, she was taken down. In Zujia's shared words, we revealed clues just right, leaving traces through our social identities. Creating a fallen figure, then through others' words, we set up the film's narrative thread. My teacher he taught by example, completing the lesson, a detail crafted over 2 months.